Welcome to Wolf's Watch. Today we got a special treat for you. We have John Gray, author of more than 20 books. Right now, his latest book, Beyond Venus and Mars, is another bestseller, and he is best known for relationships between men and women and the communication. And I have a whole bio right here, and we were laughing about this during the pre-show that when I tested it was perfect, and I can't read the intro because it's in about 4-point font. So, John, let's just dive right in. I'm so sorry about that.
No, I actually prefer it. I think everybody knows the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And today we're talking about those ideas. And my most recent book on relationships is Beyond Mars and Venus. Relationships have changed today. It's a whole new dynamic. And we'll talk about how to succeed at home, which supports success in the work world.
Well, it seems if you know the struggles that we have in relationships and communication between men and women, we bring that in to our professional lives. We bring it into the workplace.
Absolutely. You know, I have a friend, and this is the best time in his life in terms of his financial success, and he's just miserable because at home it's just not working out. And really, ultimately, as business people, we go to work, we make money. It's one part of it, make a difference, but we also want to use that money and that success to provide happiness and fulfillment for our families. And if we are not successful in that, it's primarily not about money, then it's about communication. It's about understanding the dynamic between men and women and how we can best understand each other and provide the support to enrich our lives, to increase our liveness. And that always will support our success in the office, at work, and our investments. And as entrepreneurs, it's so important to feel that support in our lives. Otherwise, we burn out, we get stressed, we lose our passion, we lose our creativity.
Yes. And then start closing down, which just makes it even worse.
Yeah.
In terms of the communication, the richness of the relationship. Have we been making progress?
No,
over the years since your original book, Men Are From Mars, we're making progress in relationships.
I'm now thinking about the 90s as the time of Camelot before the world fell apart.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's scary.
It was women were basically, I want more communication. He just doesn't understand me. And we could improve communication and things could get better. And you have to realize, although Men Are From Mars was the best-selling book of the decade of the 90s, of all books on the planet and all around the world as a bestseller, it was like a wake-up call. And I think progress happens that way. I think we take a big step forward and then we have to go backwards a bit. And I think
it helped my wife and I in
who
we were, because we had both read it before we met, and then it was something that we talked about as we're recording before we got married, and it really helped a lot in the early part of our relationship in terms of building something different.
Absolutely. In our generation, people are thriving. Okay. When they're at our age and they read Men Are From Mars, it's just that the education that I was fighting, in a sense, which is why Mars Venus became so popular, is that in the educational institutions, these young people who are now adults trying to have families and don't, they were being taught the opposite of what I was teaching. And even because I was such a big selling author, I was teaching classes at Stanford and Harvard, and they kicked me out at a certain point. The students
really
out, basically.
Wow.
They just, right now they're doing it now. If I was to go on to a university, there'd be demonstrations against me. I would be considered a sexist. In the year 2000, Mars Venus was no longer allowed to be talked about on national TV. I was on all national TV shows. Probably one of the first people.
Crazy.
I was completely from national TV because I was considered a sexist. And yet so many people love my books because it helps their relationships. But you see, it's like narrative. There's all these narratives were approved. I'm not an approved narrative. The narrative is that gender, now the narrative is gender doesn't exist. It's just a choice as opposed to whether you're biological or not. And everything I've done, and I mentioned I have a new book, Beyond Mars and Venus. It's really biologically how men and women are different. When you understand the biological differences, then you realize that insight can improve your communication with the opposite sex, as well as knowing ourselves. Often, so many men have lost themselves in the journey of what it means to be a man, and happy and fulfilled, motivated, having integrity, following through, having energy. they're losing it. You know, the men are falling behind. We can see this. Another book I wrote for parents who have boys is over my left shoulder here. It's called The Boy Crisis. Boys are just
Oh,
falling.
what a great title too.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
it's an amazing book. I wrote it with Warren Farrell, who's also really an expert in this field. Together, he's really the guy who gathers all the statistics together. Then we look at the solutions. But you know, you just look at universities where we consider education as a part of one's potential success. 2 to 1, 2 women to 1 man graduate. Equal numbers go in, but men just drop out.
Wow.
There's a lack of motivation, and part of it is it's not a welcome place for men. You know, if you have a sense of who I am, and now it's gone to the extreme. You know, as a man, you're the problem of history, as opposed to how did we get to the place we are here by good mothers who raised their children, particularly boys, who could then create this country, who could create democracy, who could create technology, who create everything amazing in this world. And some women, of course, outside the home doing amazing things, but the majority is men. And if we look at civilization, it's to a great extent white men, as much many people want to hear that. Okay, now more black people and so forth are joining the party, but look at history. So every bad thing that's happened in history is blamed on white men. Every good thing is being ignored because white men did all that good stuff. And
John, you keep talking like that, we're going to have to cut the show short.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. As you're watching this, John, I met John at a 2-day event. Then we had a chance to talk and to watch you work with people live in a room where it's men, women, people from all over the world, different, you know, just about every race on the planet was represented, and they have some incredibly intense and needed conversations. And to see the openness for that was a wonderful experience. And it was so fun. It was a fun conversation too, the way you did it. We were all laughing and asking tough questions and getting some tough answers, and
well, I'm happy to answer
enjoying it
today. But I can be very funny, all right, because I actually had a Broadway show on Broadway, sold out every night in the biggest theater on Broadway. I just didn't want to keep doing it. That's hard work. I mean, those people, man, you got to give whole life to that. You know, I'm a family guy. I got to take my kids to school, help them, you know.
And I hadn't really thought about how grueling that is. I heard James Barber joined us. You were with him at the Turn It Up event that you both spoke at.
Amazing,
in
man.
Florida, and he came out to LA, and I got to hear him talk about that. And he goes, look, he goes, it's 8 shows a week. You get 1 day off. And it's like going, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of energy.
It's unbelievable. Yes.
Huge amount of energy that you expend, you put out, you know, too much.
Well, and that's coming back to communication with men and women. It's like one of my best friends. We're very different people, and he's 6'4". We ride motorcycles together. We have these incredible spiritual talks. He's like 6'4", real rough guy. You know, he's run security for places like House of Blues, and we have these incredible, deep, emotional, spiritual talks. And one of the things we appreciate about our friendships, there's not many men that we can have those kind of conversations with.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And it's unfortunate. I mean, how do we help men get better at that kind of stuff so that we can relate to women better?
Well, I'll tell you, let me do in a moment analyzing. Okay.
Okay.
First of all, well, you actually asked, how do we better relate to women? If you want men to be more aware of what's going on inside of themselves, if the man actually has a woman in his life and he loves her and he respects her and he listens to what's going on, women are all about what's going on inside of them. So when you can make it safe for a woman to express what's going on inside of her, where she's not blaming you. See, the problem is when women are in relationships, they don't reveal a lot inside unless it's blaming him. Women today are disconnected from what's going on inside until they're unhappy with their partners, and then they spray their negativity on him. Not all women, but I'm just telling you, therapists, what do? We listen to women complain about their spouses, complain about their work, and they feel better. Well, why they feel better complaining is it's an addiction. Complaining is an addiction, just like men getting porn. Porn, for example, one of the worst addictions today because it's universal. Cocaine and drugs are certainly terrible addictions, but way more people are addicted to porn. And
That's a big statement. That's a big realization. Holy cow.
it's massive. Boys today, on average, what I've read, okay, it's like I've done the interviews, is 2 to 3 times they're masturbating a day. And what that does, that creates sexual addiction. See, the amount of dopamine that gets produced when you masturbate to a fantasy, to a digital screen, to fake that seems real, your dopamine levels shoot up. Okay, dopamine shoots up to fantasy, it shoots up to danger, it shoots up to success. A lot of things produce high dopamine. But so when you're doing porn, if you're male, if you're running in life kind of flat, life is not so great for you, that means your testosterone is low. Everything in a man, his well-being, his energy level, his attraction to women, his motivation to achieve, to become better, all has to do biologically. You've got to have the fuel. You need inspiration, you need education, you need opportunity. Certainly all that's real, but all of what that does, your situation in life, stimulates testosterone. As somebody said in one of my interviews recently, I hadn't even thought of it this way. She says, John, she actually was very positive about this. She's so grateful that you, having a privileged life, have come out to help people, and that you're so motivated to help people. And I realized, yeah, of course, I've had a privileged life, which has allowed me. What does that mean, a privileged life? It meant I had parents that appreciated me, loved me, a father who participated in my life, opportunities to get love consistently, because my parents it wasn't like extravagant at all. We lived in the smallest house in the neighborhood. But compared to the slums, it's extravagant. But compared to where I lived, my parents are oil. My father was in the oil industry. My grandfather's oil industry. I lived in Houston, Texas. We lived in one of the beautiful neighborhoods in the world. I just thought that's how everybody lived. And we had the smallest house. Okay. So I thought I was the poor person in town. Now I go, oh, I guess I was so privileged. It's kind of like just a moment. But what did that mean as a male? That meant that my testosterone levels had an opportunity to grow naturally. My masculinity grew naturally. Now, the boy down the street, he didn't have an opportunity for that because he lived a different kind of privileged life where his parents hated each other. The father was a workaholic. He had whatever he wanted because they had money, and he never earned that money. See, I never got money unless I earned it. It wasn't an extravagant lifestyle. So what you see in privileged families quite often is in the male, if a man doesn't have to earn his way, he becomes dysfunctional. We're talking about the 0.001% of the population, though. We're not talking about men in general. But what we have is in the middle is tremendous opportunities for people. Men, we look at men, their positive behavior comes from, on a biological level. Let's just start the differences between men and women for a moment.
Okay.
Biological level, if a man is depressed, he has low testosterone. If a man has anxiety, he has low testosterone. If a man is angry, he has low testosterone. Most people don't know that. Anger is high estrogen in a man with low testosterone. Emotions are all about estrogen. Estrogen is really good for women. It's good for men, but it shouldn't ever be greater than your testosterone. So there's a balance here. Testosterone, just looking biologically, go online. People say, where's the research? Well, it's the simplest Google search ever. Look at, the healthy male testosterone levels is 10 to 30 times higher than a woman's. 10 to 30 times higher than a woman's. Unhealthy testosterone means that he's depressed, anxious. That friend of yours who's so tall, he rides a motorcycle. Riding a motorcycle is dangerous, but he is confident in his power to remain safe in that situation. So put a man in a dangerous, challenging, difficult, hard situation who has training where he feels safe in danger, his testosterone shoots up. So that's why he's such a well-being guy. He has high testosterone. So now he can look inside himself to see the more feminine side of him, which is deep. It's more spiritual, it's deep, it's more loving, it's more caring, it's more supportive. So men with high testosterone actually are the best men on the planet.
Well, he has an incredible relationship with his wife.
He has a terrible relationship?
No, incredible.
No,
they have an incredible relationship.
Of course. See, women are all out there calling men like him. They'll say, oh, all these men are narcissists because women are wanting men to be like girls. If you try to make a man into a girl, he becomes he has somewhat narcissistic behavior. He gets angry. Okay. He's whiny. He's complaining. He's demanding. He is offended. He's activated. Your friend is not. I know what a man, a man who has healthy testosterone levels doesn't get upset at his wife. And the last thing he would do is say something mean to his wife. Like you're ugly, or you're selfish, or you're just always complaining. Even if she is complaining, he's like, hey, when are you done? You know, you're having a hard day.
I've never done that. Never done that. No. Or sitting and reading, it's like flipping channels going, huh?
Couples are
It's like,
arguing
God,
and
why are we
fighting.
talking about this?
See, and this is the female side. The female side of us will have infinite complaints until somebody hears them. That's why we have an industry bigger than the medical industry. It's counselors. And the counselors, 95% of the people that go to counselors are women. Why? Because you can go in a counselor's office and they'll listen to everything you say and tell you you're right. Who doesn't want that? It's like and a guy, if he's everybody's paying him for whatever he says, he thinks he's right. This is what therapists do. They just say, you're right, you're right, you're right. I understand. I don't do that as a therapist. That's why my women get better and they have better relationships. They come to me. I validate their emotions of what they're upset about. I listen to their story. I validate that if I was telling myself that story, I feel what you feel. That's a validation of emotions. That's what women are seeking, is somebody who can connect with me. The story is a bunch of lies. The story is I'm a huge victim. When you tell the story, I'm a victim, and somebody's, yes, you're a victim, all you do is feel more like a victim. So yes, you feel better. And why do women do this more, or men who are more on their female side, is because estrogen feels good. Anytime you do anything in life that feels good, that you like to do, that you enjoy doing, that's fun to do, that's loving, that's personal, that's our female side. Our male side is the tough guy. Okay. And this is what women are today. They're the tough guy. They're shut down. Not all women, but we're looking at a majority of women today, because twice as many women now are not wanting to get married. They don't want to be with a man. They don't want to be in a relationship with a man. They're so picky. They can't find the right guy for them. Why are they so
Exactly. Because my wife and I talk about that a lot, because we both know just high performing, super wonderful women
women?
that can't find look at it and go, how could she not get it? How could she not find someone? And we also know men that are kind of, and there's just like this gap. We look at both groups and like going, these are awesome people, right? They're making stuff happen. They're leaders in what they do. They're fun to be around, but yet they're constantly going, I just can't find someone.
Well, a man needs a woman. And there's an absence of women today. It's like, even the big issue is, what is a woman, can't even be answered. This is like insane, the world we've gotten to. But see what happens when women go to their male side. Okay. Then what happens is typically they don't know how to stay connected to their female side. They're not happy. That's their female side. And one of the reasons they're not happy is that as soon as you start to become more on your male side, it's addictive for women. Going to your male side is addictive. And we see this. Women see, when you're complaining, you're on your male side. You're solving a problem, even though you're a victim.
Okay. Yeah.
You're solving a problem. You're trying to change other people. Your male side is there to achieve goals, to make things happen. Okay. So we all want to make things happen. And that's our male side. Solve the problem, solve the problem. When women get into their male side, they solve the problem as a woman. See, for men, when they're addicted, they're on their female side. So let's define what female side is. We have to define female and masculine. Masculine is solving problems. Women is talking about problems. Masculine is doing what you have to do. Female is doing what you like to do. Masculine is totally selfless. Feminine is me, me, me. When you come into see, everybody's got it backwards. When women come into the office with me, all they talk about is me, 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 me. And I don't judge that, because as a man, I want my partner to be about me, 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 so I can make her happy. If she's all about me, then I'm happy. I'm on my female side, but there's no bonding. There's no attraction. And so women are busy giving men what they would really want. What really women need to do is learn to find how to educate men today to provide for women the kind of support that will help her feel soft, tender, loving, and feminine. And they think some women think, if I can find a feminine man, that I'll feel safe to be feminine. But no, then you feel more masculine because he's more feminine. See, these are like magnets. as human beings. We have a male side, a female side. And if a man's on his male side, a woman's on her female side, there's attraction. And that's what keeps the attraction going. But over time in relationships, women's female side shuts down, men's male side shuts down at home, and the attraction is gone. Where did the attraction go? Well, let's understand the foundation of that attraction. Estrogen for women. When a woman's estrogen goes up, in the presence of that woman, a man's testosterone will go up. That's other research as well, through pheromones. Literally, men get turned on to feminine women. It's because it makes their testosterone go higher. So men need this, 10 to 30 times more testosterone in order to be attracted to a woman. Or no, even to feel good. Okay. Otherwise, you're in stress. Right. Men will have a stress level. It's always associated with low testosterone, high estrogen, or just low testosterone. But primarily, women need 10 times more estrogen, just as a bottom line to be happy, not to be romantic, not to feel attracted. They need 10 times more estrogen. Then at that point, and women don't have 10 times more estrogen anymore. Estrogen levels have plummeted in women, just like
really?
Well, fertility, 30 to 40 have IVF and can't get pregnant. Some can with IVF, but the others can't even get pregnant. So
because I hadn't heard that. I heard about the drop in testosterone amongst men, which is very concerning. I didn't realize that was happening with women and estrogen.
It shows up for women as infertility. That's what's going on with women, is infertility, and it shows up with stress levels. When a woman's stress level is 10 times more than the average male, her cortisol level will not be produced. As soon as stress goes up, her estrogen levels go down. So let's think about this for a minute. See, estrogen, what produces estrogens? When you feel safe, when you feel supported, and then you can depend on others. When you don't feel safe, you can't depend on others. So I'm the only person to explain what the psychological parameters that go with our estrogen. When you feel successful as a male, your testosterone goes up. When you feel successful as a woman, your testosterone goes up. But testosterone going up doesn't lower a woman's stress level. What lowers her stress level is having plenty of estrogen when she's moving in her cycle towards ovulation. When she's coming back from ovulation, her estrogen levels don't need to be as high, but what she needs is, it comes back to about 10 times more than a man. But now she needs to make progesterone, which is another hormone that women make when they're doing what they want to do. See, estrogen is more about what you need. I'm depending on you for help and support. That's generating estrogen. Now, and then we can define later what women need today, because it's changed. So,
okay, so that's good to know.
But then what women want, that's what they want to make. A woman wants a career. If she wants a career, if she wants a job, she wants to be a mother, whatever she wants to do. If she's doing what she wants to do, a life that supports her doing what she wants to do, then progesterone levels will be higher than estrogen. If they're not higher than her estrogen, then again, her stress levels go high. So estrogen isn't always the solution for women. Sometimes it's a healthy amount of estrogen and more progesterone. But if a woman is doing what she wants to do and she doesn't feel supported, that stress level, then what will occur is something called estrogen dominance. Because as soon as women go into stress mode, what will occur is their progesterone turns into testosterone. See, testosterone says, I can do whatever it is. I don't care what I feel. I'll put off my own needs. I'll do what I have to do. So when women are making progesterone in a context that feels unsupportive to her, her progesterone will turn into testosterone. Her testosterone will go up. Her progesterone is disappearing, because in her body, see, the body's designed to, if she's in danger, her body, and she needs testosterone for that, her body will rob the progesterone. She can't make testosterone except taking away progesterone. So when women are doing what they want to do and they can't achieve their goals, that's stress, then her progesterone levels go down, her testosterone goes up.
So a lot of the normal reactions that we have.
That's science, and nobody clearly. That's why I wrote this book, is to try to explain women to men and women to themselves, and make the right choices at the right time of the month, and then after menopause, the right choices. Then it's very interesting. Men are not complicated in that way. What men are complicated in a way, which is go ahead. You ask.
You're reading my mind, because I was just thinking, okay,
I do
this is
that.
so complicated. I'm never going to be able to figure out how to communicate effectively
That's
to
why
women
the
because
300 page
I'm
book,
like ball basket, ball in basket. It's like that simple from
that's
a guy's
male.
perspective.
That's masculinity.
You know, and that's
Up and
life, right? Ball,
up and
basket, ball
down.
in basket. If it gets more complicated than that, I'm starting to get in trouble.
Right. So here's how you apply everything I just said. I was just giving a little more information for women.
No, and it's important. And as you're watching this, think about this for a second, because we on Wolf's Watch we talk about leadership in business, and leadership is a deeply personal experience. To be effective as a leader is how effective we become as leaders depends on how good we get, how far we go, deep dives in our personal development and us as a whole human being in order to be effective in leading other people. So stay with us on this. There's more gold coming. Sorry, John. I just wanted to set the table with that because this is extremely relevant. It's a deep dive that we don't have an opportunity to do often. So as you're saying, how to apply.
Yeah. So you can apply this anywhere. You need a framework which understands the context that men live in, the context that women live in. Then things start to make sense. When things don't make sense, we take them personally. All right. So these are some basic Mars.
It's like when my wife and I were new in our marriage, my office at our home, the first time I had a desk clearing moment, I got frustrated with something. I was just like, I just like cleared the top of the desk. My wife was standing in the doorway. I thought she was going to pack up and go home to her mom.
And I thought for a minute your desk clearing moment is you cleared the desk and held her and made love to her.
Right, it would have been different. No, I didn't know she was behind me. But for me, I'm like going, okay, and I'm like, okay, I'm fine now. I got that out of my system. It's I need that kind of outlet, so I need to do something physical at times. I like that idea. I think she would too. It's like there's something else to do with the desktop now that it's clear.
Okay, so
but it was that clash of life experiences and then male and female expectations on how we handle and process stuff.
Yeah, well, I remember counseling one couple where the woman just couldn't trust the man. She was always, he's a big guy, and he's like a teddy bear. A lot of big guys, not all, but a lot are like teddy bears because they have confidence. When you're big, you naturally have a biological confidence.
Yes.
And so you're not threatened. All bad behavior comes from fear. And fear is pure estrogen. So whenever a man is in fear, his estrogen levels are going up. Whenever you're in pain, your estrogen levels are going up. Have you ever tried to be nice when you have a toothache? Okay, it's very hard to be nice.
Or a migraine, or some severe.
Exactly. So what we recognize here is that this is how when we don't understand something and it doesn't make sense, we don't take it personally. And if nobody teaches us how men and women are different, then when the differences show up, they just don't make sense. So that's why Men Are From Mars was so amazingly helpful for millions of people around the world. One big difference that doesn't make sense to a woman is when men go to work, they're using their testosterone. Now, to the extent that they feel some stress at work, things aren't working out as they expect. So they have frustrations, they have disappointments, they have concerns, worries. To the extent things aren't working out the way they expect, that's stress. And that stress depletes him of testosterone. So at the end of the day, a man's testosterone levels will be lower in most cases if he has stress during the day. If he has no stress during the day, then his testosterone levels are fine. But if his testosterone levels have dropped, in order to find his own sense of well-being and aliveness, he needs to rebuild testosterone. Now, one of the things that doesn't occur is he can't rebuild testosterone in the presence of estrogen stimulating activities. Estrogen stimulating activity, playing with your kids or listening to your wife talk. These are major estrogen. See, women come to me as a counselor to talk about their problems. That raises her estrogen. But if I'm listening to my wife do it, I'm connected to her. I love her. So it raises my estrogen. So that's why men, often if women start to talk, we want to solve the problem. We're trying to keep our testosterone up at a time when it's low.
If it's at the end of an exhausting day, it can be the exact opposite of what we really need to recharge.
That's exactly
and be present.
And it doesn't make sense to women because how they recharge is talking about feelings, talking about what's going on, talking about the kids, talking about the office, talking about the weather, talking about the politics. Talking is a way for women to generate estrogen, which lowers their stress levels. Not talking is the most powerful way for men to rebuild their testosterone, which is why historically, thousands of cultures, men learned to meditate, had some prayer experience, some quiet experience. fishing, amazing stress reducer for a man. I remember as a little boy, I didn't know what was going on. I felt so close to my dad at that point.
Yep.
Because we're just
Same experience. Yeah.
just sitting in a little boat and we're throwing this thing and we're doing something, but it's not about talking. There's always a little talking. That was great. The words are priceless, but it's not about just talking about, okay? It's about doing in a non-stressful context. So we're doing in a stressful context, doing in a non-stressful context is very, very estrogen stimulating in a man. Therefore, what, on resumes, it used to be 50 years ago on a resume, you wrote out your hobbies, because hobbies is the ultimate stress reducer. Stress reducer by increasing testosterone. For me, I'm 70 years old. The average male at 50 has half the testosterone levels of a young man. I'm 70 years old. I have the testosterone levels 50% higher than when I was a young man. This is the difference, because I'm a master meditator. Every day I just go quiet. My mind, I enjoy just not doing anything out here, just reflecting,
Like this.
having my meditation, distracting from all the problems. It's the ultimate meditation, is anything that helps you forget your problems. Women, the ultimate thing is to talk about your problems. You see how different we are?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And this is pure biology. We already know that when you practice meditation, your stress levels go down. Well, your stress level goes down because you're doing something to distract your attention from what's bothering you to forgetting it. Women,
whether it's in the bedroom or the boardroom, it seems like a lot of times we're because of learned behavior growing up, we're doing stuff that's the exact opposite of what's going to make the experience better.
Well, not always,
because of the mismatches and because it can be stressful for different reasons in both situations.
My side, if you actually follow what, like my dad did, my dad came home. He never argued with my mother. He worked hard. He came home and watched TV. And my mother was a very happy woman. And occasionally they had sex as kids. We listen at the door. That's what he did. They had a very harmonious relationship. He didn't need to ask her what she's feeling, or she had a life with other women, with her life, with her friends. Sometimes my daughters would complain, my husband doesn't talk to me. And Bonnie, my wife, would say, that's why you have girlfriends. See, they want to talk and they each take turns talking. Okay. It's like with women, if I watch this with my daughters, with their friends, again, understanding femininity. Friends all out of the blue, and I start talking to my daughter, and then they'd be finished. And my daughter would say, she's not a real friend. She didn't ask me anything about me. It's like, this was my turn. You see, on Venus, like if I listen to you for 15 minutes, now you owe me. You should listen to me for 15 minutes. So women on an instinctive level want you to talk for 10 minutes, and then you owe her 10 minutes. It's just like, she's right. He doesn't talk, I talk. But the reality today is, it was so easy. It was like a cliche now. Everybody knows it. They don't know the ideas come from men or from Mars. But women, I just want to talk about what I feel. I don't want him to interrupt me and solve his problems. And men go, yes, I'm a good communicator. I don't try to fix her. I've learned not to fix. But they still argue. Okay. Arguing is all trying to change your person's point of view. And what men have to learn, here's 3 things every guy can walk away at home or in the workplace. It's, I've written books about Mars, Venus in the workplace.
Yes. Okay. Now, as you're watching this, that's a cue to get something to write with. You got 3 things coming that you're going to need.
That's right. That's a cue right now. When a woman is talking in the workplace or at home or with your daughter, she's talking. What you have to realize, they need to feel someone is interested in what they say. If you finish their sentence, you think you're telling them I understand, but actually you're wanting to end her. You see, we want to get right to the point. So don't finish her sentences. And then when she seems to be done, don't talk again. Ask another question. And here are the 3 questions. You will win over every woman in the workplace. And it's all about building trust. Workplace success in your communication, whether it be man or woman, it's about building trust. Now, with women particularly, you build trust in what I'm going to do. And men who are making financial decisions that are big, that means they have fear around it. They're on their female side. So again, you want to use the same technique to a certain extent. And this is the technique. Step 1, she's talking. Help me understand that better. And she'll talk more. Women love to help. They're big helpers. I'll tell you more details. And then when it seems like she's done, you say, well, tell me more, and pause, just a pregnant pause. We know in sales, you always make your close, and then you give a person a chance to be uncomfortable for a little while. If you don't have the pregnant pause, the salesmen that are
Yeah.
not that great, as soon as you start to say, well, is this what you want? Are you ready to sign up? And they say, there's this pause. It's an uncomfortable pause. And then many people already anticipating that pause will say, oh, well, think about it, and we'll talk about it another time. You just gave away the sale. Let them say,
Yep.
I want to think about it. That's okay. You're not pushing it on them, but give them an opportunity to work through their discomfort of saying yes to something they're not exactly sure about.
Well,
So,
and in solving problems, like in working with problem solving teams, that was a powerful lesson that I had.
yes,
Is
yes,
is to listen, to really listen, and let them, and to not want to inject something and keep asking questions.
you
That's
always
where the
will
solutions come.
build trust with men and women. It's just 10 times more important with women because it generates estrogen. Just to let
Mm,
them talk more. Help me understand that better. And they will say more. Then when they seem to have nothing left to say, you basically lean in a little bit and say, well, tell me more. And let there be another moment of discomfort. Unless they say, that's it, I'm done, I got it. Then you won. Otherwise, tell me more. And they might discover women generally have a lot more inside. It's like they got a purse, and then inside the purse, they've
yeah.
got a pocketbook, and inside that, they got a change book. There's a lot of layers to
Well,
women.
and does that also tie into what you mentioned earlier about creating the sense of safety?
Yes, it's
Because
all
it may have been something that they're holding back, and when you do that, when you say, well, tell me more," now they've got the cue that, okay, it's safe to really dig into what I was holding
safe to
back.
go into it. And also,
Yeah.
it's like feeding her the vitamins that she needs. Somebody's interested in me. Somebody appreciates what I have to say. Somebody cares about what I'm thinking. All the best qualities, women only can receive them when they open up. But anyway, that's two phrases. Help me understand that better. Next one is tell me more. The next one is, what else? Just like that. Just be like, they have to say, I'm done. That's it. Basically, you're there. It's the opposite of trying to rush them on, rush them on, rush them on. Now, I know many men are like, no, no, no. They'll just go on and on and on and on. In the beginning, they may go
No,
on and on and on because they're just like taking their moment. Finally, somebody wants to hear me. Uh, but
I'm laughing because 2 nights ago, my wife and I, we talk a lot, and it's great, and I've learned to listen a lot. And it's
yeah,
helped me in business.
yeah,
But I'm scanning on YouTube, and I found a video that I'm going, ooh, that looks interesting. And she's still talking, and I caught myself with I was starting to do the, when's she going to stop? Because I want to watch this. It's like, no, put that down, and pay
that's right.
attention. I was distracting myself because
Exactly.
I had
But
this shiny object thing going. And it's like,
exactly. What was the shiny object? Is something that stimulates high dopamine, more dopamine than what she's saying, because what she's saying is not that new and different. See, new and different
mhm.
stimulates dopamine. Dopamine raises testosterone in men and gives you focus and interest. So they work together. And also, it's really great that you can have conversations with your wife, and I'm all for that. But there's times where you just have to listen and not talk,
Yes.
where they feel safe. But then there's times where they don't feel safe to open up unless you say stuff. So whenever women talk, when there's pauses, you need to either ask another question or you need to make some kind of validating statement like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Huh? Really? Oh, okay. That's good.
So they know that I'm still engaged in the
Still
conversation. Then, for
engaged because
example, that's
most
what I
of
mean.
the time we're
Yeah.
not. Already our minds have wandered off. They've already experienced that tendency of men to have a certain amount of ability to stay and then shift off. Now, those men that will say to me, "You don't get it, John," she will go on and on and on and on. She'll
Mhm.
only go on and on and on because you make comments to explain to her. That's called mansplaining. That means you will explain things why she shouldn't think that way, why
Ooh.
she shouldn't feel that way. And that's
I
not
didn't mean to. I just couldn't help it.
I know. But if you do, man, it's like you can't explain things. That's okay. But if you
Yeah.
find that when you're explaining things, you're getting yes, but instead of that's a good idea. Yes, but means she still needs to keep getting it out, getting it out. And sometimes in the beginning, it will take a little bit longer than you think it's necessary. But here's simple thing right from Men Are From Mars. 4 ways women talk. One way man talks. Men talk to solve problems. We're gathering information to solve a problem. First, we're listening to solve a problem. We're talking to solve a problem, or we're acting to solve a problem. That's a man. Women have a man's side, so they can be doing that. But sometimes women are talking just to sort things out in their mind. We tend to mull things over, think about them, consider them, and just sort of sit on it. What women want to do is talk it out. Now, some men who are comedians, all those comedy shows, and they'll be in a team, and you have a rule. Just everybody say what you're thinking, say what you're thinking, and you can become creative. So talking things out without worrying about the consequences, how good it sounds, can free you up with your creativity. And that's all right. That's good.
But that's not talking when it's guys. We're not talking out, John. We're brainstorming. That's different.
That's right. We can be solving problems, and typically it is solving problems. But we do also talk. Okay. But
yes.
What goes on here is the main reason we're doing is solving problems or helping each other. And then we have our female side. Again, when I'm talking about our female side, we're just talking to connect. That would be like we're talking about sports, or we're talking about stock market or whatever, which tend to be the way men can comfortably talk about things that we're very interested in. Whereas women, they talk as a way of, the main reason is when women talk, they talk as a way to feel good. Feeling good is lowering her stress levels. Women also talk about feelings in order for her to feel more intimate with you. See, for a woman, intimacy, again, another thing that lowers her stress level is you see me, but I reveal things to you that I don't reveal to anybody else. See, that's real intimacy. This is female. You see it in teenage girls, which is they have secrets. If you have a secret with somebody that you haven't told anybody, that produces a lot of estrogen. And so that's why women like, it's talking about other people. Did you hear about this? You hear about that, whatever. If it's a secret, then nobody else knows. Then you're more intimately twined together. Men, on the other hand, you go through danger together. Soldiers are brothers forever because you're in danger together. Well, and the secrets produce dopamine, and then you have a lot of estrogen if you're a woman and you get close. War, danger, any kind of dangerous experience creates high dopamine, which raises testosterone in males, and then they bond together. All you have to do is to get men to bond together, put them on some camping trip where you do dangerous things, and suddenly you'll never forget that. See,
when we went bungee jumping, when we went whitewater rafting, that the bonds.
I remember every time I go whitewater, and then the time I fell out and was in the cold, just like these are bonding experiences because it's huge.
Does sports play into that as well?
Well, it works
in lieu of like super, where there's really, in most sports, you might get injured, but you're really not risking life and limb.
See, when you're facing loss, the danger of loss, huge dopamine levels. Playing sports is actually healthier than watching sports, but watching sports is great. It's a testosterone producer because, in a sense, men, just like in sex, men tend to merge into the woman and their estrogen goes up. Well, in sports, we merge into our football team. And so we're out there on the field and we're playing. And to a certain extent, that will definitely raise your testosterone. But you've also got to bring it into reality where you're doing things that produce your testosterone. You're not dependent on watching others do things.
Right. Yes. And I'm sorry, in the context of sports, I meant where we actively play, especially in team sports.
When you actively play, you definitely bond. You see, men bond through doing and being successful, or failing, basically. And then if you can pull yourself back up and say, I made a mistake, I'm going to try harder. Trying harder is also a dopamine. It's a dopamine stimulator and a testosterone stimulator. There are things that can stimulate testosterone without high dopamine. And that's what we want to get to in our life, where we don't depend on extremes in order to feel alive, but we can be sitting with our wife and having a conversation and we feel alive. Okay. That's what you really want. Then you walk through the woods and you feel alive. Then you go on an airplane and you feel alive. If you're in first class, I just have compassion for anybody in economy. I just think that's illegal. And it's insanely more expensive to go first class.
It's such a different experience.
First class.
I always look longingly into first class and going, it's just a different life.
It's not that different. It's just not.
I want to be part of that.
It's not stressful, and to be in that.
Or like when I apologize for interrupting, but my wife, my brother, and his wife, the four of us sat at the north rim of the Grand Canyon eating lunch, and the four of us, it was one of those, it still gives me chills. It was one of those times where it was just the four of us being there, experiencing that. We had a little bit of chatter, but it created one of those life moments where we're all just going, this is, because it's beautiful, it's quiet. There's so many things that were going on with being connected to the scene and the four of us.
It's like falling in love.
Sharing
Falling in love with someone new produces dopamine, and that the beauty and the glory, again, new and different, grand and big. Imagine being able to have that without having to go to the Grand Canyon. See, this is what marriage can be. This is what making love can be. Okay. I mean, this was Wednesdays are my day off, so I've had sex 7 times. It doesn't do that every Wednesday, just happen to be in the stars or whatever. It's like being at the Grand Canyon. Now, why can I do that? It's because I've learned, and I teach this to men. Most men have no idea of this. You can, as a man, have orgasms without ejaculating. If you have orgasms without ejaculating, the woman stays turned on. See, women lose their interest in sex over time because every time they have sex with men ejaculate, and men's testosterone goes back down. And it stays down. And gradually over time, it goes lower and lower and lower. This research, and I want to make sure everybody hears this research, the Japanese proved that even just decreasing the frequency of sex will raise your testosterone. If they found that if you have sex on Saturday night, after sex, always, if you ejaculate, your testosterone goes down to your baseline. That's why they say ejaculation doesn't lower testosterone, because it goes back to what it was before, and then tomorrow it's a little bit lower. Then we know that statistically every year it goes down 1% by people who ejaculate, for men who ejaculate. So when he basically is ejaculating, but here's the good news. The Japanese found if you go for 6 days without ejaculating, when you wake up in the morning, you'll be 50% higher than you were before. So like when you fell in love, your testosterone goes up 50% higher just because there's newness, but newness goes away, but just simply abstinence and regularity. It can't just be abstinence and not doing it. That's going to cause it to go down. There's nothing more powerful for men than testosterone production than regular sex. But too much sex will lower it unless you have regular sex where you don't ejaculate. See, ejaculation immediately brings you back down to your baseline. If you don't ejaculate, you got to go, well, what do you do after that? This guy's standing up tall. You just have a little conversation. She holds your penis, and it gradually disappears. Comes back down. You feel love. So what do? You realize why are you having sex in the first place? To feel love. So it's not to have sex pleasure. Pleasure is good, but the benefit of pleasure, particularly when you have someone you love, is that pleasure allows you to feel more. When you can feel more, you can express that love more. So you keep saying to your partner over and over, I love you so much. You're so beautiful. I'm so glad you're the only one for me. All these sweet things. And so many men, they don't realize how much women love hearing that. It's a joy for me to be in a class of 40 people or something, where I ask more intimate things. I don't do it in these big deals. I just entertain with good ideas for workplace, for relationship. But the more intimate things is, how many women would love if during making love, that man is usually so silent. He's just, I love you. I love you. You're amazing to me. It's just the most beautiful woman. I just can't believe I'm so lucky to have you. See, that's what, these are all these estrogen.
Makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Huge difference. And verbalizing love is what pulls your energy up, so you don't contain it all down at the base of the spine, where then it builds up too much tension. And that's what ejaculation is. It's just a release of the tension. Now, ejaculation is built into our programming because it also makes babies, and we're designed to make babies. But once you've made babies, you can now be free of the need. Now you can have sex not to make babies, but to feel more love. Otherwise,
and to build a deeper connection.
Absolutely. That's how you grow in a lifetime of making love. You have to make more love. And it's primarily through sex as one aspect of it. Then you have your life outside the bedroom. You have your work. You have your children, or you have your family. You have your community. You have your politics. All these various things are a part of who we are as we get older. They're more important.
And I've got a question about that. Mind, body, and spirit. So that level of intimacy in the bedroom
is all spiritual.
Is really about life is a spiritual experience, which is another conversation that I hope we get a chance to touch on before we wrap up. But that builds mind, body, spirit connection.
Completely.
And being able to do that, and coming back to leadership roles in, you know, in our families, relationships, in business, does that also help us be more effective
Yes, and it's measurable. It's
in
been
life?
proven. When you go into synchrony in your brain, which only happens when your heart becomes dominant over your brain. See, the brain's sending signals to your heart all the time. The heart sends signals to the brain all the time. When the heart is dominant and sending signals to the brain, there's another company, you could interview them. It's called Heart Math, because they do all the science of
Heart math, like
heart math. It's the science of the heart. Okay, emotional.
got it.
Heartmath.com for anybody. They've got a little computer you can put, and you can see when you're in heart synchrony or you're out of heart synchrony, where the brain and heart are in synchrony, and they can measure the little computer, and it says, so it gives you feedback. And I'm in heart synchrony all the time. Okay, I can just turn the thing off. It just goes
Well,
right.
and something else I'd like to point out, and this
But
was
the
as
point I
you're
want to
watching
make
the.
here, let me just say,
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
when you're feeling integrated, spirit, mind, heart, all that, we'll just call that heart synchrony. Okay, when that's the case, and they've measured that your electromagnetic field dramatically increases 35 feet all around you. If you're not in synchrony, your magnetic field decreases. So I'm a very popular speaker, particularly because what we call charisma, or people open up and they trust me, particularly if they're in my physical field. And business, so much of business is in your physical field. But even if you're on the internet, and this is, if you don't get it as much, but at least your thoughts and your ideas are coming from that place of non-judgmentalness, of acceptance, of appreciation, of caring, compassion. When you come from that place, people, they trust you. They want to support you. They feel they can be supported by you. And that's what makes you to instinctively say yes to something that person says.
Well, and earlier you had mentioned about
Business. That's
how
what
much
business is.
energy it takes to be effective from stage when you were doing Broadway,
What's
and
the
we see
question?
that. No,
Oh,
it's just earlier you talked about, you
well, for
mentioned
me, I'll
that
tell you,
energy that it takes. So when you're working with an audience, there is a big energy exchange, and it takes a huge amount of energy to do that. So to have that greater outpouring of energy, whether it's from stage, in a room with a team, or just one-on-one with someone that
I'll
that
tell
you're
you,
in
for
an
me,
intimate relationship with.
I have appreciation for what they go through. I'm going to single myself out as a little different from them, more like a stand-up comedian who doesn't. And for me, I cannot give the same talk every time. I feel my audience. I interact with my audience. That is
Yeah.
what really exhausts you, is that you're not
Yeah.
just reading something, you're creating it right there in the moment, which, by the way, is totally alive. Okay, you're totally fun, like our interviews right now. You see, we didn't have
Yes.
set plan. I'm not going over it. We're just going where we go. Well, I do that with my audiences. So I never give a talk which is exactly the same. I draw from 25 books, but
Mhm.
it is the direction is relationships. Usually that's my direction, but there's emotional intelligence, there's spirituality, there's meditation, there's health, there's stress reduction, there's hypnosis. I have a varied background of 50 years in the personal growth
Well,
industry.
and speaking of your background, there's something that I'd like to spotlight, because when we first met, this was a wonderful surprise when you shared at that time how you had developed such an expertise in meditation.
Yeah. Oh, I'm an
And you,
NFL player in meditation. If people know, back in 1969, before that, I was a hippie. See, back in the 60s, that was a huge revolutionary change. Men were starting to move to their female side. We're still men, but we demonstrated against war. We wanted to grow our hair long, and we more concerned in looking really cool and hippie like. Money was not a big objective, but that's men going to their female side, doing what you like. I remember one rock and roll song was "Doing What You Like," and I just crashed. I became depressed. I got really high on Woodstock and music and drugs and free sex and all that stuff, LSD, fantastic, having a time of my life. But then you crash. You will always crash after all that external stimulation. And so the Beatles, who were heroes at that time, they had gone to India, and they said, you can get high without drugs. I said that was for me, because I wanted to be high, and I learned how to be high, but not with the crash, but just authentically alive. And meditation was a big part of that for me. Celibacy was a big part of that for me. You can't really go so high in meditation of a man without celibacy. I mean, literally, it's a fuel. I used to be able to meditate for 18 hours. You know, see these guys sitting in caves.
18 hours.
18 hours. Yeah.
Wow.
I can do it now, but I can't sit up straight the whole time. If I have a day off, sometimes I'll do that, but I prefer to have sex instead. It's the same thing.
I could understand that. I'm for that.
It's being able to stay focused. It's effortless focus. So you focus on something. And there's all kinds of meditations. I teach meditation. Sometimes in my classes, I'll teach a meditation for them that's you can use every day. If you're not
doing, actually spend a fair amount of time. Was it in India?
Studying? Yeah, celibate monk. A lot of it was in Europe. I was his personal assistant. After 9 years, I lived with him. I was his prize student. You know, they had posters of meditation and brain function at that time. Mine was the first brain that they really did that research on back in the early 70s. And they have a big poster of me and meditating, and they show my brain function. It's in 3,600 centers around the world. I mean, I was like a star, a meditator, and celibate. Actually, the other celibates, really, there were other monks there too, but they weren't necessarily celibate. They said they were. But if you're masturbating, you're not celibate. What happens when you're real celibate for 9 years, and I haven't really gotten there again, but the perspiration under my arms smells just like semen. My whole body was saturated with semen. My brain was saturated. Wow. It's a life force. And you know, we're meant to use that to make babies without a doubt. But if you're not making babies, why give away your jewels? And this is potency. And at the same time, you know, everybody ejaculates. There's no shame to that. To me, the shame should be that if you do it with yourself, because, you know, that's just a complete loss of energy. If you ejaculate with your wife, someone you love, you fulfill that energy, that life force went into her. And then you get, it's kind of like you throw a ball against a wall, it comes right back to you. So it's not like I'm against ejaculation, but I tell people, everybody wants to be able to feel the passion for a lifetime. I'm a master of that. I feel, now my wife passed 4 years ago, but we had passionate love all the time. It was amazing. But what happens is when men ejaculate, the conditioned response in a woman is, if I open up, he leaves me. Over time, she doesn't open up as much. She loses her sex drive. This is just simple, basic psychology, conditioned response. You know, because we feel so much love right at that moment of ejaculation. What's going on is our estrogen levels have hit a peak higher than our testosterone, and our testosterone now goes down. So it's like there's a tension that builds up inside of us when we're not hormonally balanced. And we want that female energy. We want to feel that love. And so it feels good. So, you know, we're designed to do that, but we actually have higher design, like meditation is to take yourself to a higher level. You know, we have other potentials within us. You know, I talk about the 9 powers of meditation. You know, one is humility. And once you have humility, then then without pushing other people down, you can find your confidence. So greatness, a sense of self-esteem. So it's humility, self-esteem, as groundedness, so things don't upset you or bother you, sense of humor, lightness, joyfulness in your life, but groundedness at the same time. Then the ability to empathize with others and literally become others. You know, I have that power. I can play with an expert tennis player and my game goes up 10 times. I play with a beginner. I feel like a beginner. I mean, I can become a chameleon, so to speak. Your ability.
So it makes it easier to model behavior, which is a hallmark of a high performer as well.
And some people are born with these powers, but 1 or 2 of them. But others, like I was born with that one easy for me, because I really modeled Maharishi. I was his #1 guy. I could say everything he said. I took every course he taught. And so I absorbed him into me until I got him. And then I didn't need him anymore and blessed him and went on my own way. But that's another power that we can have. Another one, here comes another one, which is the whole movie made about, is the law of attraction. Is your attitude is you pull people to you. Charisma, you draw in. You can imagine, see, if you can imagine how you're going to feel when you get something, you tend to pull that in. And I have that ability to do that. When I created the #1 best-selling book in the 90s in the whole world, for 5 years before that, I meditated on I'm the #1 best-selling author in the world. I'm the #1 best-selling. It wasn't my mantra anymore. That was my mantra. And feeling people coming up to me, telling me their lives were changed. But it was based upon, I've been teaching all these courses for 10 years, where people come up to me after the course and tell me how I changed their life. So I just kept imagining. I wrote this book and people keep coming up to me. And then I got more than I could even imagine. So that's another aspect of generating results, by first feeling how you would feel if you achieved that. And that's called enthusiasm. You feel, when you're feeling enthusiasm in life, you're anticipating, I'm gonna have what I want. And in Christianity, it'd be have faith, just have faith. It's
Right.
gonna happen and that's Think and Grow Rich. It's the foundation of all financial success is Think and Grow Rich. Well, you can't think and grow rich unless you can imagine how it would feel to have all that. And that's called an open heart. And what can open your heart more than anything is having someone you love and caring for that person as a priority to be a foundation for your world of success. And another power is the power to influence. I influence people. When millions of people are, affected by my books, I'm an influencer. You have a lot of people online, they're influencers. They just naturally have that power. And any good salesperson is an influencer. Okay, they can sell anything. And then the next one is the manifester. One is you attract opportunities to you. The other one is you manifest it. Is you're a doer. You create things. You set your goal. You follow through, and it happens. These are all powers. Some people can do that, but they have terrible relationships because they have no empathy. They have no compassion, or they have no humility. A lot of times successful men get divorced right away once they hit a big high note of success because they feel so great. That's the power of greatness, but there's no humility to ground it.
Yeah.
And so their wives feel, oh, you're so arrogant. You don't care about me. I'm not important to you. So men have to work at it. And the way you work at it is you don't just buy expensive stuff. It's all about doing lots of little things. So that's a basic Mars Venus idea. Again, it's for women. Every act of love, big or small, has the same effect. Now, if you go to my new book, Beyond Mars and Venus, which is the science, every act of love, big or small, produces the same amount of estrogen. You can't just suddenly get a huge dose of estrogen. You're going to get a surge. And a one flower would do it, or 50 flowers will do it, the same surge. It's a matter of continuing to do lots of little things, holding hands, acknowledging, noticing her, stroking her hair, making sacrifices for her without complaining, without feeling it's a sacrifice. If you want to do that, then I'm happy to do that. I didn't want to do that, but since it's going to make you happy, I'm happy to do that. See, these are what I mean by positive sacrifice. It's not what I want to do, but what can I do?
Or priorities. I like to think about it as what's my priority? My priority is in the relationship. So I'm willing, I feel good about it, and I'm willing to do things because I'm consistent in the relationship to make the relationship solid and keep it that way.
Priority.
And I feel good about that, as opposed to a buddy of mine. At the time I got married, I was the dedicated bachelor, and my wingman, if you will, was chomping at the bit to get married. It's been 23 years. He's still single, and we're still married because of the mindset. And I think part of it was he looks at relationships as compromise. It's like you're constantly giving stuff up, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it's about priorities and what do you want in the relationship.
That's what
you get it back. You get it back manyfold.
You get it back manyfold, but also it's part of what masculinity is. What makes you feel like a hero is you give up what you want for somebody else. And then you said it beautifully. Priority. What's your priority? But see, for him, he doesn't understand women. Okay. It doesn't make sense to him why women need these little things. And they're not asking so much.
And it shows in his behavior. And some of, it's just like, look at me going, you think that really works with women? And it's just like, well, no wonder you're single.
Exactly. And also he's too picky, and he's too picky because there's a reason why men become picky. Okay. One is just external, like all these apps where all these women want you. And is he a handsome guy?
Yeah.
Does he have a job?
Yep. Successful entrepreneur.
He's in the 1%. So you have your pick. As soon as you have your pick, you don't have to earn a woman's love. Okay. You have a sense of entitlement. All these people today are so unhappy. They're all, I deserve more. I'm entitled to more. They're angry. When you're angry and entitled, you're just going to get less and less. But when a man doesn't earn the affection of a woman through his actions and behaviors, what happens? He doesn't bond with her. So he doesn't bond with her. Then because in today's climate, he gets to have sex with her pretty soon. And when he has sex pretty soon, he loses interest in her because he didn't bond with her mentally, emotionally, and then physically. So he feels it. If you give a man what he wants right away, you're respecting him and you're not respecting yourself. See, women have to learn to take longer to do this. And see, the wisdom of the past was always, man, you have to almost give up your whole life to have sex with a woman. I mean, you got to marry her. You got to commit to her for a lifetime for 3 minutes of pleasure. It's good pleasure. But it's really the love. Why, if we're going to elevate sex from being an animal, it's why do we have sex? First, we make sex to make babies if we're doing that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have sex in order to feel our love, to express that love, because particularly for men, they can't feel love as easily as women. Okay, so women have already 10 times more estrogen, 20 times more estrogen than a man. We can only get to those high estrogen levels by having sex with a woman. That's the only way you can get to the high estrogen levels. It's literally you're bonded to her and is making love to her in a way that takes her higher. And women cannot go higher than what a man can provide for her. A man can take her higher because you're combining the male-female energies together if you're having sex in a way that respects a woman's needs. If you're having sex just to make him get him off, that's just like a sneeze.
Well, the fallacy of the hookup culture.
Say that?
The fallacy of the hookup culture.
Yeah, it's destroying.
There's no
destroying women. It's disconnecting everybody from their authentic self. And
I'm watching. I just started to take us in a different direction. Before we do that, I'm watching the clock. I'd asked you if you could talk with us for an hour. Can you stay a little bit longer?
I can. Also, if you have questions to this, this is really controversial.
I'm watching for the comments. And we'll add questions in as they come in.
Okay,
but coming back to what you were saying about the how the hookup culture is having a negative effect, because that change it's not just intimate relationships that spins out in everything else in terms of how we relate to everybody.
Everything, how we relate to life is immediate gratification. I want immediate gratification. I don't earn anything. And if I don't get what I want, then I'm moving on. I'm moving on. And where did this start? It didn't just start up with hookup. It started after World War II. Okay. It's to do what you like. It's, you don't have to follow any rules. You can do whatever you want. And
is a lot of this due to the fact that we've created we've experienced a period of just unprecedented affluence since the period after World War II?
Yes, that's a big part of it. There's a big part of it. There's a lot of things that happen, but the biggest thing that happened was birth control. See, sex has consequences, and when you have birth control, there's no consequences to sex. See, the consequence of sex is the purpose of sex at the lowest level is to make a baby. And well, actually, it's not the lowest. That's a noble thing. But then when you when you have sex without making a baby, then it's just indulgence in a drug. That's all it is. Now, I don't mind that drug as long as I elevate it by helping me feel more love, So it just becomes, entertainment and joyfulness and sharing together and standing in front of the Grand Canyon, not having to travel to the Grand Canyon. It's just there's
lightning in a bottle. It's lightning in a bottle.
Think about it. See, as soon as we had birth control, now you can have sex without consequence. The next thing you have is easy availability of abortion. Now, I think abortion, from my point of view, there's situations where abortion is a blessing. It should not be encouraged. See, it's a heartbreaking thing. It's a terrible thing, but sometimes we have to do terrible things, just like war. You have to go into battle. And I'm not like, it's like ambivalence, but all I know is that as soon as we had abortions, now the amount of homelessness, 70% of Black boys are growing up without fathers. Why is there so much Black violence in society? 10 times more. Okay. I'm not being a racist and saying that. Those are just realities. 40% of white boys are growing up without fathers. A boy cannot know how to be a man if he doesn't have a father who example for him all of his life, making a woman happy. A boy cannot even feel masculinity, healthy masculinity, if he doesn't have a mother who's happy. And that's what we're seeing is the decline of happy mothers. And the thought that, I see in this IVF community, you see all these gay women going in having babies without a man. I don't think the government should control your body and all that stuff, but I think that we need to shame these things. We should not encourage these things. These are just these babies growing up without fathers. This is child abuse. Okay. Sorry for everybody. I know this is terrible, but I've got a book right over here called Boy Crisis. We have the stats on it. Even divorce hurts children dramatically.
Well, and the impact that men have on their boys, their sons, is huge. I grew up with a mentor father.
There's 34 34% of girls today are identifying as bisexual. Okay. They can't even feel their full attraction to a male because they didn't have fathers. It affects girls and it affects boys. Even when I talk about all the weaknesses for boys, masculinity is all about power. That's our power part. Femininity is all about happiness. We can turn it around, just say all those women are graduating, they're not happy. They're stressed. There's 4 times more antidepressants on women than men. These are women needing, and was teaching in Brazil at a medical conference. I was told there at a medical conference, 95% of women in Brazil take sleeping pills in order to go to sleep.
Oh my gosh.
Massive stress. This is massive stressful life. What do you do if you're a woman, if you're going to lower stress? Make money? Yeah, because you don't have a man, and that's going to double your stress, triple your stress. You need to learn how to be a woman, attract a man, and love him the way he is, and love in a way that will bring out the best of him. We do not have a culture that supports women in doing that, educating women to do that. Women have never had to learn this because society, culture told women, you can't go to a job. Now, I'm all for telling women to go to a job. I say I'm all for holism. We should all be both our male and female sides. But for women to go to work without teaching them how to come home from work and find their feminine side, we're not taught that. Women are not taught that. I just did a whole interview on how to find your feminine side as a woman. It's starting to happen. More women are starting to wake up and going, I want to find my feminine side. They have no idea how to do it. They have no role models how to do it. You know, here it is, a therapist, a man can teach you how to do it because you need a man to do it. You can't do it just by yourself. You need a man. History has always told women, put them in a situation where you depend on a man. What happens when you depend on a man? You love men. If a man had a job, if he doesn't have a job, he becomes evil. Okay.
And in reality, it's interdependence.
Yes,
it works both ways.
Yes.
There's this negative. There's this unfair and incorrect negative connotation that goes with the word dependence now.
Yeah.
That it's not connected to what the word actually originally meant. I won't get into etymology, but I like that point because it's truly it's interdependence because we as men we need women just as much.
Okay. The goal is interdependence that we should have.
Yeah.
But if you want to strengthen your masculinity, independence. If you want to strengthen your femininity, it's dependence. So if you want to have balance, it's intelligent dependence and independence. For example, a woman who needs to connect to her female side needs to learn how to ask for support in a language that a man will respond, in a tone of voice where a man will respond. Well, some of these feminists say, I don't have to learn anything. I should demand it. And you're not getting it, and you'll never get it because you don't have the balance of your male side that there's technique, there's strategy, there's approach. You know, you don't just go to you make a business deal. You don't just go in there and talk about what you want and how you feel. You have a strategy. So strategy, discipline, that's your male side. So how can you ask a man for more help? Asking for help is getting help. Depending on help is feminine, but you have to learn now how to ask for it, how to language yourself, strategy. And you have a male side to do that. You use your male side at work. Then you come home and you don't ask because you're not in touch with your female side. And if you were to ask just without education of understanding how men are, he's not going to do it because the way you ask, the way women ask is complaining. And then what happens is complaining doesn't work. Then they just mentally complain and they feel I can't get what I need, so I'll do it myself.
It's like do it myself. A gal friend of mine from a number of years ago, you know, she was struggling with relationships. She looked at me, she goes, men are dogs. And I was like, yeah, we are. And if you keep beating us on the nose with a rolled up newspaper, guess what? We go somewhere else.
Yeah.
My wife's laughing in the background. She
I have
says,
another
by the way.
here. I just see that.
Yes. I know we need to wrap up soon.
But it's been so good talking with you. I didn't hear that last thing about men are dogs.
It's like, yeah, men are dogs. Okay, I'm a dog. Okay. If you beat me on the nose with a rolled up newspaper, eventually I'm gonna find a different house. I'm leaving. Right? We constantly get with that miscommunication. It seems that for men, we're kind of hardwired for a response at a certain point. We just withdraw.
So I've been so good talking to you. I run these things.
Sorry, John, got to go. All right.
Hey, no, sorry. Happy to talk with you. We'll do it again, Wolf. Love it.
I would love to. love to. Dr. John Gray, thank you so much. For staying the extra time. I appreciate it.
No problem. Happy.
And for you, thanks for watching Wolf's Watch. This has been a great, entertaining, and I hope you got a lot out of this. There's a lot of gold nuggets dropped. And I look forward to seeing you on the trail.